I'm Pastor Aaron Harris, and welcome to my free financial course, which is all about financial literacy. I'm glad that you're taking the time to go through this course, to watch this video at the same time when some people are watching a movie or a couple of episodes on their favorite TV show or scrolling through social media. You will actually be able to gain a lot of financial literacy and knowledge to set yourself up for a better and brighter future. This session will be all about my book, Make Money Make Sense: What Every Christian Should Know About Personal Finance. Make Money Make Sense: What Every Christian Should Know About Personal Finance. So throughout our time together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the book as a reference, really just giving this information out to you all for free here on YouTube. Yes, you can go purchase and buy the book, but I realize some people like to read material. That's why I wrote the book. So you can have a manual that you can read if you like reading. Some people like listening to the material or watching someone present on the material. And that's why I created this YouTube channel, so that you can get the information. So you can watch this and buy the book, and you'll be able to just get double bang for your buck, where you're able to understand financial literacy. So let's dive into it. The title of the book is Make Money Make Sense. What this is all about is making money make sense to you. It's the basic information that you should have. A lot of people don't want to learn about finance and money because they say, oh, it's too complicated, or it's too much, or I don't have the time or the energy, or I really don't want to learn all of this stuff. So if you're apprehensive, you don't know where to start, but you know you need just more financial information, then this is a great place for you to start. This information is for you, and it's going to help to be able to transform and change your life and your finances. The second part of the title is What Every Christian, I had it backwards, What Every Christian Should Know About Personal Finance. And I debated about whether I should put what everyone should know about personal finance, because I believe that this is really a book about everyone. But throughout the book, I hold through Christian teachings and philosophies on giving and generosity and even purpose of life and finances and things like that. So I didn't want people to go pick up the book like, oh yeah, what every person needs to know, and then they read through it and they feel like it was a bait and switch and people are talking about the kingdom of God and things like that. So this is not only for Christians. This is information is for everyone. Anyone will be able to learn from it and benefit from it, but Christians will be able to see some Christian principles weaved throughout the book, which you will be able to appreciate looking at finances from that perspective as well. Lastly, on the cover of my book is my name, Dr. Aaron Harris. I have a doctorate of ministry degree. I am a pastor. I love ministry. And one of the things that I'll enjoy doing is helping people to be able to change and transform lives. And what happened is God has uniquely situated me in a position where I understand ministry, and I've been able to learn and understand finance. And so I feel like as the church, we shouldn't just ask people to give money as preachers and pastors and things like that. But me being at a church that's diverse, made up of mostly minorities, then I believe that we have a responsibility to help people with life skills, because a lot of people do not have parents that taught them about money, or grandparents or schools that taught them about money. And so the church is a resource that is able to help people in a positive direction in all areas of their life. So I'll give you a little bit more about how I got connected with teaching this material. And so when you crack the book open, the first thing that you'll see is that the book is dedicated to my lovely wife. It says, "To my wife Elise, thanks for your love and support. This book is for you." And so when I was writing this book, I had a couple of different audiences in mind. One was the church that I'm a pastor at. I had that audience in mind. Another one is family members that could benefit from financial literacy. I really had them in mind. But the person that I primarily wrote this book for is my wife. And my wife is a medical doctor. She's extremely smart. She's intelligent. She's a go-getter. But when it comes to finances and we talk about money, she would always say, "I don't want to talk about money. I don't want to mention money. I want you to just handle it. You take care of it. You manage the budget, do everything that you need to do." And from my perspective, I was saying, no, everyone should go and have financial literacy. Like, it does not make sense for some people to go and have just financial literacy, but other people to not have financial literacy. So I try to communicate to my wife, like, it's good that you're making a good income and a good amount of money, but you should understand at least just the basic principles about finances so that you can know how to navigate and grow your money. I may not always be here, something may happen to me, but I think just like everyone should know how to read and write, everyone should know the basic principles of finances. And so that's what this book is. It's really written as the basic principles. And this is what this lesson is all about. It's the basic principles that everyone should know. I'm not trying to be controversial in this message. I'm not trying to show you something new that no one has ever discovered. This is the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s of finances, that it's like you must know this in order to get ahead financially, know what your options are and things such as that. And so that's the purpose of the book. That's why I'm writing the book, and that's the target audience for the book. It's really for a group of people that are coming into money, that have good jobs, that are making a decent amount of income, but they don't necessarily know how to manage that income better. And so this information just tells you how to make the most out of the resources that you have by having basic financial literacy. So diving into the table of contents, this is made up of an introduction chapter, then I have 6 basic chapters, and then I have a conclusion as well. And so the first chapter is on vision. Financial vision is so important. I can't wait to dive into this information. Just getting that information about financial vision and how to create it and why to create it will change your life, and it will change your perspective. One thing I could say, me and my wife, we've been married 5 years now, and we have not had one fight about money. And they say couples, the number one thing that they fight about is money. And the reason we don't fight is because I have a financial vision, my wife has a financial vision, and we came together and we created a combined financial vision to where we are on the same page with our finances and with our resources. So it's going to be very important for you to create a financial vision. If you are single, and that will really just help you to know where you're going and for you to head somewhere with purpose. And then if you are married or engaged or have a significant other, then you're definitely going to need a financial vision, because it's not just about what you want or what your spouse wants or fiance wants or significant other wants, but really it's about how do you create a combined vision to where you aren't fighting about money and fighting about resources, because you both have the same vision, you have the same goal, so you're able to put together a strategy to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So vision is vital and vision is important. Once you have your vision and you have your goals, then it's going to be important for you to set your budget. And your budget is your strategic plan, it's your strategy for how you meet your goals so that you can live out your vision. And so we're going to talk about how to create a budget. We're going to talk about budgeting categories. We're going to talk about budgeting percentages, so you know how much money should I be spending on housing or transportation, or how much should I be saving and how much should I be investing. We're going to go through the details and the numbers of all that information. So I'm excited just about that. It blew my mind when I learned about budgeting and that there were certain percentages that you shouldn't go over or spend on certain things. Like you can't spend 50% of your check on housing or it'll impact this or that, and what people prioritize and don't prioritize in their budget. So I'm looking forward to jumping into that. That'll be transformational. We look at saving, and saving is something that everyone knows that they should do, but it's usually an afterthought in our budgets. And that's why many people live paycheck to paycheck, really because we aren't saving an adequate amount of money. Now, people will argue with me and say, no, the reason I live paycheck to paycheck is because I don't make enough money, or rent is too high, or groceries are too expensive, the cost of living and inflation, and this is why I cannot afford it. But even most people that's making six figures are still actually living paycheck to paycheck. They do not have enough resources to last them the next 2 months if they were suddenly fired or ran into a crisis, which shows that saving is not just about how much you have coming in, but it's really about a mentality. So we're going to talk about saving, the mentality, how much to save, and everything like that. And so in addition to that, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at investing as well, where people are going to say, okay, how should I invest? So I'm excited to talk about investing, because there is so much information out there about investing that could be misleading. We're going to talk about low risk investing and who should be doing low risk investing and what are the benefits of low risk investing. We're going to be talking about moderately risky investments. So we're going to look at investments that carry like a good amount of medium risk, not too risky, but they still carry a little bit of risk. We're going to talk about index funds, mutual funds, and just ways that you can protect your money and allow it to grow at the same time. And we're going to talk about high risk investments as well, because high risk gives you high reward. So people want to know, how can I make more money at a faster pace? And so we're going to look at some of those investing options as well. Then we're going to dive into giving. And so giving is something that everyone has to manage and navigate and figure out what they're going to do with their finances, whether it's given to your children or it's given to family members, or being generous to friends or is given to charity, whether it's leaving a legacy to your family or is giving to your church. We have to really talk about once you have resources, how you can use your resources to be a blessing to others. And one quick thing I'll say about giving is I mentioned to someone that the best thing that you can do with your money is to give it. And then I got YouTube comments and they were like, well, if that's the best thing, then give me all of your money. And people started making jokes and they're like, well, that does not sound right at all, right? To give your money away, that does not sound right. But for me personally, if I go into my wallet right now and I see what I have in my wallet, first thing that comes out is a $10 bill. So I have this $10 bill. Now, to me, if I have this, I have a total of $30 cash in my wallet. I'm surprised I have that much. I usually don't have any cash in my wallet at all because everything is digital. But for me, this $30, whether I lost it or I couldn't find it or if something happened to the $30, it would not change my life. It would not impact if I'm able to eat or I'm able to sleep. It wouldn't impact bills. It would not impact my life in any way. But at the same token, $30 can be transformational for someone else. There is someone that is praying for $30, whether it's here in America or somewhere else across the world. $30 can change someone's life. And so if I just went to the gas station and I saw someone put a little bit of money in their gas tank and I walked up to them and I said, hey, here goes $30 for you, that person would remember that for the rest of their life. And that'll be a highlight and a moment that they'll be able to tell people, you won't believe what happened to me. I was at the gas station getting gas and someone gave me $30, and it will change and transform them. And so when we think about finances, one good thing to think about is how we can be generous and how our generosity can impact others. And so I can't wait to talk about the chapter on giving, because that will be transformational and that's going to bless you and that's going to help you as well. And then we're going to end off with money traps. And money traps is really focused on once you have made money, other people make money, most other people make money by trying to get your money from your pocket into their hands. I'll repeat that. A lot of people make money by trying to get you to give money from your pocket and put it in their hands, whether they're selling a product, whether they're trying to get you to invest in something, whatever it is. There are a number of people that make a living just trying to get your money. All of that is not bad. We have to spend money. Hopefully we spend it on good things, but we're going to talk about predatory practices and just some of the things that you need to watch out for, because there are some people who, once they get their hands in your pocket, they'll try to never let go. So we're going to talk about all type of money traps that people fall into each and every day, so that you make sure that you can avoid these money traps. And I believe that if you do that, then you'll be able to make sure that you do not lose your money. So let's dive in and let's look at the introductory chapter, which takes us into talking about just financial literacy in general. So starting off, this talks about an approach that I had to money. So looking at it, we're going to ask the question of what is financial literacy. What is financial literacy? When I was in graduate school, one of the things that I did was I wasn't great with money. So I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I remember that in living paycheck to paycheck, one time I had car trouble and it was going to cost about $500 to fix. Now, I had just got a job at a church where I was going to be their preaching minister. So I was going to go and preach on a weekly basis at that church, but I needed transportation. I needed my car to get there. I needed my car to get to school. I need my car to get to other places. And so I just remember being really discouraged because I had to pay $500 for my car and I didn't have $500. My family didn't have $500. I didn't know what I was gonna do. And so what ended up happening is I told one of my professors, because they said, why weren't you in class today? And I said, well, it's kind of hard to be in class and learn when you have financial challenges. And they ended up blessing me with an immediate scholarship that was for like $600, where I was able to pay for my car and have a little bit of money left over. And I remember just praising God and dancing and just saying yes, and just being so excited that I was able to take care of the need that I had. And that was my approach to money early on, was live paycheck to paycheck, spend what you had, and when you got into an emergency, pray to God and hope that He bailed you out. I learned, although that is exciting, and I was able to see the hand of God many times going through similar situations like that, finances, you can have a much better approach to finances than that, where you can actually have money invested, money saved. And so when you get in a bad situation, it's not that bad for you financially because you have already dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, and you have been prepared for it. So looking at what is financial literacy is just like literacy in general. It's just like literacy, the ability to be able to read and write. Financial literacy is the ability to know the basics about finances and about money. And so with this, what we're looking at is financial literacy. The benefits of having financial literacy is that it can literally change the trajectory of your finances. Two people could be making $60,000 a year, and one person can retire 30, 40 years later and have $2 million in their bank account, and the other person can retire 30, 40 years later and have $0 in their bank account, $0 in their retirement account, and they can be flat broke. And when you ask what's the difference between the two, I would say the difference is financial literacy and financial wisdom. So you need to have financial literacy because it is essential to being able to grow and be successful with money. And so the challenges of financial illiteracy is even people who win the lottery, they say most people that win the lottery end up going broke, 10 years after they won the lottery. Over 50% of people, have spent all the money that they have and they have to declare for bankruptcy. That's why a lot of people in sports that get huge sums of money have to declare for bankruptcy, because if you have the resources but you do not have the knowledge for how to successfully manage those resources, then you can end up squandering a whole lot of your wealth. And so you do not want to be financially illiterate because you literally cannot afford it. So let's dive into chapter 1, which is all about financial vision. So, looking at chapter number 1, it starts off with a quote from Proverbs 11:5. It says, "Good planning and hard work leads to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty." Good planning and hard work leads to prosperity. So a lot of people feel like, "Ooh, if I just work hard, I will prosper. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get that degree. I'm going to get that education. I'm going to get that promotion and that money. I'm just going to keep working hard. And if I work hard enough, then I will be financially successful." But this proverb says, in addition to working hard, it says good planning and hard work leads to prosperity, which means you need to have a plan for your resources, for your finances, just for your life in general. So if you're looking at why am I not prospering? Well, we could look at, do you have good planning and do you have a hard work ethic, a good work ethic? Because those two in combination together will help lead to prosperity. And so this chapter, it really focused on your financial vision. One of the stories I start off with is when I was younger, I started working when I was about 12 years old, and I was making $5.75 an hour, which was the minimum wage in California during that time. And so what I did from the time I was 12, 13, 14, 15, every summer I would go work this summer job at the Bay Area Health Consortium. And my vision was when I was 16, I wanted a car. And so I saved up half of my checks when I was 12, half when I was 13, half when I was 14, half when I was 15. So then on my 16th birthday, I was able to purchase a car with the money that I had been saving over the 4 previous summers. Now, the reason I was able to save that money is because I had a financial vision of something that I wanted to do with it. So I didn't spend my money on McDonald's. I didn't spend it on a bunch of video games or phones, but instead what I wanted to do was I wanted to utilize the resources I had to be able to get a car. And creating a financial vision is just that, is seeing what you want in the future and making decisions today that will help prepare you towards that financial vision. So the benefits of a financial vision is that it provides you with direction, it provides you with purpose, it motivates you to take action, and so you're not reactive, but instead you're being proactive, and it increases your financial satisfaction because you're not just aimlessly trying to get more money and wealth without an end in sight, but you actually set goals, and when you accomplish them, then you're satisfied because you're able to say, "Hey, I set this goal and I accomplished it." And so those are some of the benefits. And so the way that you create a financial vision is, the first thing you have to do is you have to look at what are your priorities? What is it that you envision for your future? For some people, they envision their dream home where they can raise their family and they want to do everything that they can so that they can go and get this dream home. For other people, they want to travel the world and they want to experience life and they want to just pay for experiences. And then you may have some people that they just want to be generous. They want to leave a legacy to their children or to their grandchildren, or they want to be more generous to the church, or they want to help out different organizations. And so they don't feel like wealth is just for them to spend it on themselves, but they want to be able to benefit others. No matter what your vision is, I want you to know that your vision is unique, that everyone's vision is not the same. And so there is not a one size fit all approach that people should have to resources and money and finances, because we all have a different vision. And the vision that you have, it drastically impacts the decisions that you will make with your finances. So the way that you create a vision is first by seeing what is most important to you. What is it that you want to do? Now, if you want the big house, the nice car, the travel the world, all of that, then you have to figure out how to make an extreme amount of money. But for most people, what we have to do is we have to prioritize. Even when you are rich and you do make a ton of money, you still have to prioritize what do you want to spend the bulk of your money on. And so looking at it, once you have your vision of, my vision is traveling the world, my vision is this really nice home, my vision is this car that I always dreamed of, my vision is being able to support this community effort or work. Once you have your vision, then what you have to do is you have to set goals. Now, goals are checkpoints on the way to your vision. So I may have a vision of buying a home. If I have a vision of buying a home, then I'm going to set goals. Well, if I want to buy a home, I know I'm going to need a down payment. And so I need to start saving for the down payment, and I need to get my credit right. And there's some other things that I need to do to prepare for the home. So when you look at it, your goals are your checkpoints along the way to reaching your vision. And once you hit all of your goals, then you have your vision achieved. So looking at it, when you make goals, the first thing you want to do is you want to set SMART goals. SMART goals are goals that are specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and they are time bound. You want to have SMART goals because you want to make sure, first off, that they are specific. Do not have a goal where it's like, I want to make a ton of money, right? That a ton of money is not specific. How much money do you want to make? Then you have to make sure it is measurable, right? So instead of saying I want to make a ton of money, you say I want to make $1,000,000. I want to make $100,000. I want to make $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever that number is. When you set your goals, you have to be specific and it has to be measurable. Then you want to set goals that are attainable. Now, some people will go out and they say, I want to be a trillionaire. And they say, yeah, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. What I say is definitely set goals that are attainable, that you can realistically reach. That way, you don't get discouraged. If you set goals that are so far out of your reach, then you'll actually never hit them. But you want to set goals that you can actually hit, that you can actually get to, so you can feel accomplished, and then you can go and hit the next goal. So if you want to hit $1 trillion, then don't start off and say, I have $0 in my bank account, I want to be a trillionaire, right? Go from $0 to $100. Go from 100 to 1,000, from 1,000 10,000, from 10,000 to 100, from 100 to a million, from 1 to 10, from 10 million to 100 million to a billion. Then climb your way to your trillion. Don't just set it up there from the beginning. So you want to make sure that it's actually attainable, a goal that you can realistically meet. And then after you look at that, you want to make sure that it is relevant. Relevant means that it's relevant to your vision. Don't set a goal outside of accomplishing your vision. If your vision is to purchase that dream home, then don't set a goal to travel to every country in Europe, right? Because that's not necessarily going with the vision that you have. So you want to make sure that your goal is relevant to your vision. And last, you want to make sure the goal is time bound. So you don't say, I want to become a millionaire one day. You say, I want to become a millionaire within the next 7 years. Then you set goals to be able to get that. And so all of your goals should have a time stamp on it for when you want to accomplish that goal. So now we're going to go deeper into it, talking about actual time stamps, because you have some goals which are long-term goals. Long-term goals are goals that are 5+ years away. So if you have a goal that you want to set for 30 years, that's your goal for retirement. That's your goal for your children, for the legacy that you want to leave. If someone is in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and I'm thinking 30 years down the line, I'm thinking legacy, and who am I leaving the money to? If I'm 18 or 28 and I'm thinking 30+ years, I'm thinking about what does retirement look like for me. But what we should always have is our long-term goals. You want to know, what is your end game? Where do you envision yourself in the future? And that's one thing that I do with my wife. I check in. How many years do you want to work? Do you want to, retire after 20 years, 30 years? What age? What do you want to do in retirement? Just to kind of get a gauge of where are we going and are we on the right path. In addition to that, you should set 10-year goals. Where would you like to be financially 10 years from now? Do you want to remodel a home? Do you want to be in your first home? Do you want to get a new home? What is it that you want to do and accomplish 10 years from now, a decade from now? Some people may want to pay off a mortgage in the next 10 years. Whatever it is, you have that long-term goal and you write it down so that you can go and make sure you're trying to hit it. Then you want to have your 5-year goals. What can you accomplish 5 years from now? And then you look at what are the steps that you can start taking today that will help you in the future. So looking at long-term goals for us has been really beneficial in our marriage and our relationship. I'm going to take a sip of tea and then I'm going to tell you just how. So looking at it, when it comes to our long-term goals, the financial decisions that we make today impact whether or not we're going to reach our long-term goals. And so what me and my wife had to do was sit down and figure out, what is your financial vision? Where do you see yourself in the future? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Where do we see ourselves in the future? And once we have that vision and we write out our goals, and I understand what my wife's goals are, she understands what my goals are, we merge them together to see how we can accomplish all of our goals together. Then what that helps us with is, now the decisions that we make today are decisions that's helping us get to our long-term goals. So if our long-term goal is to move into a new home where our family will always be able to come back to and will be able to retire in, then maybe we're not buying our dream cars right now. Why? Because the money we would have spent on the dream car, we're actually saving towards the dream home, because the ultimate vision is not the car, the ultimate vision is the home. And so we make sacrifices for that. So in the same way, once you set your long-term goals, it'll really help you to make good and wise financial decisions today that will set you up for where you can be in the future. And some people say 30 years is too far down the line, 10 years and that's too far away. But I'm telling you, those that fail to plan to fail. And so planning is essential. It's something that you definitely have to do in order to go and be successful with your resources and your finances. So you want to make sure that you're planning. So after your long-term goals, then you have short-term goals. Your short-term goals are between like 1 and 3 years. What do you want to accomplish in the near future? So 3 years, some people may say, oh, I want to repair my credit score, or I want to move into our first home, or you may know, hey, my car is getting older and it's going to die in a few years. So let me start saving up today and let me get that ready now. Or you know that something is going to happen within the next year. And so you're saying, okay, I want to plan for what I'm going to do with my finances within a year. Or some people may just have saving goals. Your goal may be to save, $10,000 in the next year. That means you'll have to, save like $830 something each and every month for the next 12 months so that you can get to your $10,000. Sometimes that's saving for a vacation, or if you know a big anniversary is coming up, you're about to have your 10-year anniversary and you want to do a vow renewal and you want to go on a big, huge vacation for your 25th year anniversary, then that's something that you start preparing your finances for in advance. So those are your short-term goals. And then after that, you have immediate goals. And I like immediate goals because what can you do right now? What can you do today to be able to reach your financial future? So everyone should be able to have immediate goals that they point to, that they're able to say, this is what I'm going to do right now today. So you should have goals for 1 month from now. How much money do you want to save? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to pay off in the next 1 month? You should have 3-month goals, 6-month goals, then get to your 1-year goals. But everyone should be setting goals so you have something that you're looking forward to. That helps you to say, no, I'm not going to buy this new gadget or this new toy, or I'm not going to waste money here or spend money there. Why? Because I want to stay on track with my goals. So you want to make sure that you have your goals, and setting goals is really being proactive with your finances and reactive. So many people just want to go to work, make money, collect their checks, don't really focus on where they spend them or how they spend them, and then wonder why they don't have more money or why they aren't living out the financial vision that they have. But one thing that you have to see is you have to be proactive with your finances. People who are proactive are people that go out and make it happen. People who are reactive pretty much watch what's happening and they let life happen to them. Don't be a person that is reactive. Be a person that is proactive. Being proactive means you're prepared for financial emergencies. It'll help you achieve financial goals. You'll have good financial health, and you'll be able to take advantage of opportunities. Now, at the end of each chapter that I have these questions at the end that are really beneficial and really helpful that people could take time to write out so that there's a practical application to what you learn. And so for chapter 1, the first question that I have is about creating a financial vision. And it's not a question as much as it's a step. It says, in your own words, define your ideal financial lifestyle in the future. So in your own words, just write out, what is your ideal financial lifestyle. And then it says, consider your values, priorities, and aspirations. What are your values, your priorities, your aspirations? So you write out your financial future. After that, it says, what are your top 3 priorities in your financial vision, and explain why they are important to you. So not only do you have priorities, but you prioritize them and you say why they are important to you. Then after that is 2 questions about your SMART goals. It says, write down 3 long-term, 2 short-term, and 1 immediate financial goal. Make sure that they are SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So write down 3 long-term goals, 2 short-term goals, and 1 immediate goal. So if you're watching this, I encourage you to just go ahead and just write those down, your long-term, short-term, and immediate goals. And then for each goal you've written down, break it down into how you're going to actually achieve that goal. And then the last one is prioritizing your financial goals. It says rank your financial goals in order of importance and urgency, and then explain why you chose this order. And so that's just explaining the order of your values, of your priorities, of what is most important with you. And if you have a spouse, significant other, fiance, this is vital that you both do this together, so that you make sure that you're not assuming what the other person wants or assuming they want what you want, and that you're both able to be on the same page together. Now, what this did was this chapter really focused on vision. And once you have your vision and know where you want to go, then it's important to set your goals. And so this chapter focused on your goals. Once you have your vision and your goals, then you have to have your strategy. You have to have your execution plan for how you're going to actually achieve that vision by achieving your goals. And that's where we get into chapter number 2. And chapter number 2 is all about budgeting. Proverbs 13:7 says, one person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. And so this passage is talking about how a poor person pretends to be rich and makes themselves poor, right? Or keeps themselves poor. And a rich person pretends to be poor and ends up making themselves richer. And that basic principle is living below your means, meaning you're not spending above your means, you're not spending at your means, but you're living below your means. A rich person is living below their means. A poor person is living above their means. And so a key to budgeting is, are you able to live below your means? So I'm going to take a sip of this, and I have a great story for you about me growing up and how I learned about budgeting. You're going to love this one. So when I was growing up and I was about 10 years old, I remember my mom, I was in a single parent household, me, my mom, and my sister, and I wanted a new pair of shoes. So I asked my mom if I could get a new pair of shoes. And so my mom said we couldn't afford it. And I said, you go to work every day. Like, how can we afford this new pair of shoes, right? I'm 10 years old. I don't understand how the world works at this time. And so what my mom did was she said, what I'm going to do is she pulled out a piece of paper and she wrote down her income on one side. Then she wrote out all of her expenses. And so I calculated her net income. Then I calculated all of our expenses. I'm talking about our expenditures, our bills, everything that we pay money for. And so when I did this, I went to my mom and I said, Mom, we have more money going out than we have coming in. And she looked at me and she said, exactly, as to explain why we did not have the money for me to go get a new pair of shoes. And so from that moment on, I really learned about budgeting. I learned about saving. I learned about the importance of budgeting and the importance of living below your means. Now, we didn't have a lot at the time, but looking at it, it's like we have to have a better budgeting system, right? The basics of a budget is to spend less money than you make. It sounds like common sense. Spend less money than you make, but you'll be surprised how many people cannot follow and live by that principle of spending less money than you actually make. And so once you have your budget, once you have your vision, and then you have your goals and they're set, then you have to have your budget. Looking at budget, most time people jump straight to your net income, but to understand budget, you really need to look at both your gross income and your net income. Your gross income is the money that you make before any deductions are taken out, like taxes. So if someone makes $80,000 a year, then that's their gross income. But just because you make 80,000 a year doesn't mean that's how much money you see on your paycheck. For example, if someone grosses $60,000 a year, that's $5,000 a month. It doesn't mean that when they get their paycheck, it's going to say 5,000. Usually it'll be 4,000 and some change, or it could be 3,000 and some change. But when you're looking at your gross income is your income that you have before any deductions are made. That's before taxes are taken out of your check, before they take out Social Security, Medicare, before they take out retirement and health care. The reason understanding gross income is so important is because some people feel like, well, there's nothing that you can do about taxes. Well, actually, there is. That's why most billionaires and multimillionaires, they do not pay a lot of money in taxes. The reason they don't pay a lot of money in taxes is because they understand how to get tax deductions. Now, if you're a business owner, you have options of much more deductions than someone who's a W-2 employee who may have less options at getting deductions. But either way, you can get deductions. And so that's a great way for people making over $60,000 a year, especially if it's over $80,000 a year. I would encourage you to make sure that you have a great tax professional that specializes in the field of income. Don't just go with the friend or family member that one person recommended to you, or a person that seems nice. Go get a qualified professional, because they could end up saving you a ton of money on your taxes. So it's important to know about your gross income. Your gross income for people that pay into retirement out of their income, then your gross income includes that amount that you're paying into your retirement. So if you choose to pay $1,000 a month into your retirement, that's part of your gross income, but not part of your net income. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll look at their net income and they'll see how many deductions they have, and they'll go to their retirement or their HR and they'll say, hey, stop taking all this money for retirement. I want this money to come back to me. But you really don't want to do that, especially if your company has a match, because then if you put in $1, then they put in $1, then you automatically have $2 for every dollar invested, up to a certain amount of money. And so what you want to do is you really want to make sure you really want to make sure and ensure that you are going and getting the right amount of money is going to your from your paycheck to your retirement account, to make sure that you are secure and that you are good for your future and that you have everything that you need. Also, you want to make sure that you are adequately funding your retirement. A lot of people are underinsured, meaning that they do not have as much insurance as they need when it comes to their medical insurance. You want to make sure that you have enough coverage so that if you get sent to the hospital, that you're not hit with the big hospital bill and now you have to pay $50,000 out of your pocket that you don't have, that spins you in a financial crisis. So understanding and knowing about your gross income is essential. Now that we've dealt with our gross income, let's take a dive into looking at our net income, which our actual budget will come from. So when you look at net income is your income that you receive after all of your deductions are taken out. And so with your net income, this is known as your take home pay, because this is the check that you're going to cash. This is how much money is going to your bank account. This is how much money you're taking home so you can actually spend. And so when you budget, the first thing that you need to have is you need to have budgeting categories, and then you need to have percentages for how much you're going to contribute to each category. Now, there are a lot of people that have a lot of different budgeting categories, but here are the ones that I use. And whether you change them or mix them around or use different budgeting categories, that isn't the big thing. The big thing is that you have some type of budgeting metric system. So I have 8 categories that I use, and you can write these down if you like. I use housing, food, transportation, saving, personal expenses, giving, miscellaneous expenses, and debt. Those are the 8 categories that I use. And so looking at those 8 categories, then what you have to do is you have to assign a percentage to each category to determine how much money you're spending on each category. And those percentages should end up being 100%, or they should equal out to 100%. What I did not know growing up is that there was a certain amount of money that you should spend on different categories. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the categories, and we're going to look at the baseline of how much people should spend in that category. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a range. The range is going to be the low end and the high end. The low end is probably the minimum that most people spend on this resource, and then the high end is the maximum that most people should spend on this resource. So starting off with housing. Housing should be between 25 and 35% of your net income. Now, when I talk about housing, I'm not just talking about rent. I'm talking about electricity. I'm talking about water. I'm talking about garbage. I'm talking about all the fees associated with you living at that particular location. If you have a home, I'm talking about the taxes that you pay for the home that you own. If you have a homeowners association or a Melrose, then I'm including those as well. But looking at your housing, it should only be between 25 and 35% of your net income. Now, when you talk to a lot of people, especially me, I live in California, so I could already hear people screaming at the camera saying rent is too high, it's impossible to keep it that low, rent is so high, how can anyone ever afford that? But really, when you're looking at these percentages, it's just a principle. Like if someone said they made $2,000 a month and their rent was $2,500 a month, you would say, well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up because you can't spend all your money on your rent. You can't afford to live that way. Or if someone made $2,000 a month and their rent was $1,500 a month, then you would say, oh, well, you only have $500 left over. That's not enough food for you to eat and get to work and do the things that you need to do. So you understand in extreme examples that you cannot pay too much money for your housing or you'll really shoot yourself in the foot. So, understanding this budgeting system, then looking at it, if your home and your vision is not the thing that you were just dreaming about and hoping for and just really wanted, and that's just at the top of your priority and vision, if it is, then yeah, you should spend about 35% of your income on your home. If it's not, you should be closer to 25% of your income on your home. Now, if you're single, most single people say, "No, I can't live with a roommate." Well, you may not be able to afford to live by yourself. If you're paying 60% of your income on your housing, you need to get into a situation where you can pay a lot less for your house. And I understand people with children and families, this may put you in a complicated situation where you can't pay less for your home. But really, if you are paying more than 35% of your net income is going towards your housing and you're wondering why you don't have any money left over, this is why you don't have any money left over, because all your money is going to your housing. And I know people that I talk to that they have a 1 bedroom apartment, they get a raise on their job. As soon as they get a raise, what do they want? 2 bedroom apartment. Or I know families that stay in a 3 bedroom home, and as soon as they get raises, promotions, or new jobs, then they want a 4 bedroom home. And so people always want more and more and more. But really, what we have to learn is if we want good, healthy budgeting, then sometimes less and more. Less is more. Sometimes it's more beneficial to just go and sometimes it's more beneficial to pay less for your housing so that you can have more money for saving and investing into your financial future. So that's the first thing that you need to look at is how much are you spending on housing. Secondly, you look at food. How much money are you spending on food? Food should be between 5 and 15% of your income. Now, if you just love food and you're a foodie and that's your passion and that's what you want to do, okay, you could be higher, closer to that 15%. If you really don't care about food that much, you're not a big food person, then you want to be closer to that 5% of your budget, which is on food. Today, a lot of people are doing DoorDash. A lot of people are ordering food or going out to eat. You're not cooking, you're not meal prepping, and you're spending a ton of money on food. When people look, they could spend 20, 30, 35% of their income on eating out and going out. But really, you have to control your food budget, because it'll be a shame if your dream is to travel the world and the reason you can't travel the world is because you're spending too much money on Chipotle and pizza and Panda Express and other food options, right? So you want to make sure that your budget is in line with your vision, meaning you may have to make sacrifices on your food so that you can save and invest money in other places so that you can live out the vision that you want. So check how much money you're spending on food, and it really should be between 5% and 15%. And I understand that milk went up in prices and the grocery store prices, everything is going up, and we don't, nobody wants to eat beans and rice, rice and beans. But really, if you want to set yourself up in a good financial situation, you have to really control that spending on food. People sometimes go to work and they just didn't pack a lunch and they want to spend money out on lunch. I know I'm guilty of that. I spend more money than I should on lunch during the week. But looking at it, we have to learn how to control that food budget. And your food budget includes everything that's food. That's your eating out, that's your eating at the home, that's your lunch, that's everything. After that, we have to look at transportation. Similarly to food, transportation should be between 5 to 15% of your income. Now, I know a lot of people are going and getting new cars and they're like 5 to 15%. There's no way, right? Because your transportation, it doesn't just include your car note, it includes your car note, it includes your car insurance, it includes the gas that you're paying in car. It includes any ride sharing services that you're using, like Uber or Lyft, or whether you get on the bus or train. No matter what it is encompassed in that transportation budget. You want to make sure that you're only spending between 5 to 15% of your income on transportation. Now, I know if you go to a used car lot or a new car lot, they're going to approve you to be able to go get a car that's going to cost you $800 a month and send your insurance up to $200 a month, meaning you're paying $1,000 a month for a new car, and that doesn't even include repairs or gas or fuel that you're putting into the car. I understand that fuel prices are going up and through the roof, but also understand if you spend 50% of your income on transportation and you wonder why you don't have any money at the end of the month, is because all of your money is going towards your transportation, and you have to get that transportation in control and stop spending so much money on transportation. It should only be between 5 and 15% of your income. I wish people would have told me these principles a long time ago and tell others so they're not getting in debt and getting their car repossessed and things like that. Sometimes you may need to just go get a used car. And I know some people are so fearful of their car breaking down that they're like, I'm just gonna pay $1,000 a month for a new car so I don't have to worry about it breaking down on me. Whereas really, you could have just paid $5,000, $10,000 for a car, and if it broke down, you could have bought another car. Within 3 years, you could have bought 3 or 4 cars by the time you paid for that one car. And no one wants to be stranded, but don't let your fear of your car breaking down force you into making a bad financial decision where you're over leveraged and you're spending way too much on transportation, everything in moderation. Next, we want to look at saving, right? Saving is often an afterthought. People, they go get the home, they take care of their housing is a must. They take care of their transportation so they could get to work and other places that they need. You have to eat to survive. So people spend all their money on housing, on food, on personal expenses, on clothes, on other things. Then when they look at their budget, they don't have any room for saving and they're wondering why they're living paycheck to paycheck. Really, anyone living paycheck to paycheck just means you don't have enough money saved to where you don't have enough money saved to where if you don't get your next paycheck, you're still going to be okay. And so, looking at it, you do not want to be living paycheck to paycheck. You want to be saving money each and every month. You want to be, if you know you want to go on vacation, when it's time for vacation, it's not, oh, let's put it on a credit card. It's, no, I have been saving up for this and now I'm ready to go on the vacation. And so, when you're looking at it, saving is important. People should be saving between 10 to 20% of their net income each and every month, not including what they're saving for their retirement plan. And so when we say saving between 10 and 20% of your net income, what we're saying is on the low end is 10%. 10% is good, 20% is great and outstanding. And how much you save depends on what is your financial vision for the future and what is it going to take for you to get there and reach your financial vision. For some people, it may be 15%, others, it may be 10%, others, it will be 20%, especially for people that want to retire early and do things like that. Then you want to be saving on that higher end earlier so that you can invest that money. Now, some of the money you save will be invested. Some of the money may be saved so that you could get a new car. Some of the money may be vacation. You can save it for different purposes and reasons, but between 10 to 20% of your income each and every month should be saved. And if you have a budget and you're looking at your budget and you're not saving that money each and every month, I would say start at trying to save 5%, boost yourself up to saving 10%, and then see how high you can take it. But you definitely want to make sure that you're saving money. That means that you may not be able to upgrade your housing as soon as you like. You may not be able to get that new car that you were looking at. Instead, you may have to go for something used, something less expensive, something that's not as nice. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that saving is a priority and not an afterthought, meaning that you want to be proactive and not be reactive with your finances. After looking at saving, now we get into personal expenses. Just like food, your personal expenses should be between 5 and 15% of your income. Now, this is any money that you're spending on yourself for any reason. This is your clothes, this is your toothpaste, this is you going out and doing self care. The money that you're spending on yourself is really coming out of this personal it is really coming out of this personal expense. This is your I want to go to the movies. This is your I want to go out and have fun. This is the expense category that you use. Now, some people have a separate category for entertainment purposes. The way I set up my budget, I'd rather just have it for personal expenses. And the way that it's set up, or our finances is set up, is my wife has her money for her personal expenses and she spend whatever she wants on that. I have my money for my personal expenses. I spend whatever I want on that from the budget that I have from the personal expenses, and it works out great. But if you want to include an entertainment category, which will help you keep track of finances better, then you can definitely do that as well. After that, in addition to personal, we want to look at giving. Giving is between 5, 10, and 15% of your income. So when you look at giving, the reason that I said between 5, 10, and 15% of your income, they say the average churchgoer gives about 3% of their income. So if you went to 5%, that puts you over the average goer right there. And so, from a Christian perspective, what happens is many Christians believe in the principle of tithing, where they give 10% of their income. Me and my wife, we do that. We give 10% of our income to the church so that the church can go out and do ministry and impact and transform and change people's lives and do all type of good and great things for the kingdom of God. And so we encourage people to give 10% of their income. And some people get to a position to where they're able to be even more generous than that. Some people are retired or they have a really high income and they're looking to give back. Other communities and people who are religious, non-religious, also give portions of their income back as well. And so what I would encourage you to do with your finances is not just see how your finances and resources benefit you, but how they can go and bless others as well, how you can use your resources to be a blessing. There's many benefits of giving: psychological benefits, emotional benefits, even financial benefits to giving. So we encourage people to go and give. And with giving, oftentimes people spend whatever they have and they look to see how much money they have left over and they take a portion of what they have left over and they give that. Instead, this is saying be more intentional, make giving an actual category, and go off and give generously. Then we have the category of miscellaneous. Miscellaneous, similarly, is between 5, 10, and 15%, meaning that minimally you should have 5% of your income should be miscellaneous. You don't know when your car is going to have trouble. The question is not if your car is going to have trouble, but when your car is going to have trouble. If you live long enough, no matter how new or nice your car is, you're going to end up having some car troubles. If you own a home long enough, no matter how nice and new your home is, you're going to have home trouble. We have people go through life-changing, altering events. And so we want to make sure that you have a miscellaneous expense category between 5 and 15% that says this is for unforeseen financial situations that I have to be ready for. And so many people will put this money in an emergency fund, but your budget should just have some lag time or some wiggle room where you know something on your budget is going to go over or it's going to cost more and you're going to need to help it, and you can go pull from that miscellaneous. And so the last one that we're going to look at is debt. Debt should be between 10 and 20% of your income. Now, if you don't have any debt, praise the Lord, hallelujah, you have absolutely no debt, so you really do not have to worry about it. This is a category you can cross off, and you could use the other 7 categories as budgeting items. But if you do have debt, then you can look at, okay, I want to pay extra towards my mortgage, or I want to pay extra towards my car, or I want to pay off my credit cards, right? If you have high interest debt, meaning debt above like 8%, then you want to attack those and get those paid off as soon as possible. Some people have debt, credit card debt, car loan debt as high as 18-20%. You want to get those out the way really quickly, because there's really no investment that you're gonna make, or most investments that you make will not exceed that 18 or 20%. So you want to get rid of that debt as soon as you can. Moderate debt between like is 4 to 8%. What you want to do is you want to really moderately get those taken care of. Really, if you are investing money into like an index fund or a mutual fund, or you're investing money, then your money that you're investing is not growing faster than, most times the money you are growing is not growing faster than the interest rate that you're paying for these moderately high debts. So you want to pay those off as soon as you can as well. And some people may have low debt. Low debt is like, I don't know, somewhere under 5%, really 2, 3, 4%. Some people have home loans around 3%. Some people have student loans around 3%. And really, that's just at about the cost of inflation, meaning that you can pay them off early. It would be great to pay them off early. You'll be debt free. But really, whether you pay them off early or not, when the interest is that low, it's not making a huge difference. But you should just allocate some of your money towards debt if you do have any form of debt, so that you can make sure that you get it taken care of. You want to balance your budget, make sure all of your categories equal 100%. You want to adjust your budgeting percentages as things change and life change, and you want to regularly review and adjust your budget based off of, you may have had a kid, or you may have gotten married, or you may have changed jobs, or you may live somewhere else. You need to make sure you're just constantly updating that budget and that you're looking it over. Here I have a budgeting hack or a budgeting tip that you can use. You can use your bank accounts as helping you with your budget. You can have an account that pays for all of your bills. You can have an account where money is automatically placed into your savings each and every month. If you're married, you can have a household account that goes to important household expenses, essential household expenses like food, or and in addition to that, what people should have is a personal expense where you give yourself, whether it's $200 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month. You should give yourself a budget and an additional category that you can spend that is not a whole lot of money, but once it gets low, then you're able to notice like, oh no, like I can't go out and spend more money because it's getting low. And so my wife and I, that's something that we both do. She gets some money, I get some money. And the benefit of that is we have our own personal account. So every month it feels like, oh no, I have to budget and make sure that, I don't go crazy and overspend. Whereas our savings and other accounts are getting really big. But if we just had all the money in one account, we spend like crazy because it would feel like we had unlimited resources to be able to go and swipe. But by having them in that personal account, it really holds us more accountable. And so that's one encouragement that I would have for you is just set up your bank account in a way that works for you and in a way that's helpful to you. Now, budgeting is not just about knowledge. Some people is also emotional, right? And so I have some tips on sticking to your budget. Why people don't stick to their budgets. These are the 6 top reasons. One is lack of awareness. You don't stick to your budget when you don't monitor your budget. So a lot of people are spending more on items than they even know they're spending. They don't even know how much money they're spending. Another one is lifestyle inflation. Every time you get more money, you feel like, nah, I need a new car, a new home, or new clothes, or new this, or new that. But you just need to continue to live below your means. Other people have challenges when they have impulse spending. You may see an ad while you're scrolling social media, or you may walk in a store to get 1 or 2 things and walk out the store with 20 or 30 things, right? Where you're doing a lot of impulse buying. And there's some tips and tricks that you can do with that. Whereas if you go shopping and you always buy more than you're supposed to, then before you go in the store, write down your list. And while you're in the store, only get what's on that list. And if you want something new, then get it from the store next time. Or if you're online, if you want to purchase something, give yourself 48 hours to think about it. And if you still want it after 48 hours, then go and get it. Another challenge is unexpected expenses come up. Life happens, cars break down, things break. Another challenge is just lack of discipline. Like people just don't have discipline, so they spend money and they just don't know how to control it, and that's just a whole another thing. And then unrealistic expectations. If people are setting goals too high, you're not properly managing your budget because your expectations are not realistic. You're saying you're going to spend $150 this month on food and you end up spending $400 a month on food. That means you weren't sticking to your budget, not because you didn't have self control, but just because your goals were not realistic. So you have to make sure that you write a realistic budget. And so now that we've dived in the budget and really looked in the budget, something that's going to help you really get ahead is looking at saving. But before we go to our saving, the questions about budget on here, what it says, the first thing I want you to do is create an ideal budget based on the percent of your income that you would like to allocate to the following budget categories: housing, food, transportation, saving, personal, giving, miscellaneous, and debt. Make sure your percentages all equal out to 100% and align with your financial vision from chapter 1. So this means you create your ideal budget. Ideally, what would you want your budget to be? Step 2, or the second thing you need to do, is calculate your actual income and see how much you're spending on your budgeting categories right now. So the first one is ideally where would you like your budgeting percentages to be, and then the second one is realistically where were your budgeting percentages for the past 3 months or so. And then step 3 was to create a plan for the next 12 months to be able to go out to create a budget that will help you for the next 12 months that you could stick to so that you can be financially successful. Next, let's dive into chapter number 3. The quote for chapter number 3 is Proverbs 30:25 that says, "Ants, they aren't strong, but they store up food all summer." And what that tells us is ants, God's creation, they store up food in the summer so they do not starve in the winter. Meaning we can learn from ants. Just like they save, we need to learn how to save for the future as well. A saving has always been easy for me if I had something I was saving for. I remember as a little boy, I would save my Christmas money that I received in December all the way to my birthday, which was in May, so I could take my Christmas money, combine it with my birthday money, combine it with money that I made working over the summer, and then I could go buy whatever new gaming system came out or whatever games I wanted to go with that gaming system. In the same way, when you have goals, things to save for, it helps you to be able to be more productive in saving. Saving is important just because it helps you get to your financial future. It helps you to be able to reach your goals. And like I said, people who live paycheck to paycheck live paycheck to paycheck because they actually are not saving enough money. So you should be saving between 10 to 20% of your net income. With saving, what you should have is an emergency fund. Emergency fund mean an amount of money that you have in case of an emergency. Jobs close down, people get fired, people get laid off, people get sick in the hospital, people pass away. You want to make sure that you are ready for any and every emergency. People like Dave Ramsey recommend to have at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses stored up and saved up. If you have a really good secure job, maybe you only need 3 months. If your job is not so secure, or you're an entrepreneur or business owner or a contractor, then maybe you need 6 months of expenses. But everyone should make sure that you have emergency expenses because emergencies do happen. When emergencies happen, the difference between a financial crisis and a financial inconvenience is how much money you have in the bank. The difference between if my car broke down when I was in college and I was broke, and today if my car broke down is in college, it would have been a big life. What am I going to do? How am I going to figure out life? How am I going to get to where I'm going to go? This is terrible. Today it's like, oh, this going to take an extra 2 hours out my day to get this over to the shop. It's just inconvenient. In the same way, you want natural emergencies not to become a financial emergency, but you want it to just become an inconvenience for you. So when you have saving, there's short-term saving and long-term saving. Short-term saving is saving for goals that you have in the near future. You may want to save for a vacation. You may be saving for a wedding. You may be saving for something that you could get within the next 12 months. That's short-term saving. Long-term saving is when you're saving for far out in the future. You may be saving for a new home in the next 3 years or so. And so you want to make sure that you're saving for events. I know my family's going to Disneyland in 3 months. So that's something that we save for, we prepare for. I know I'm going to need a new car in the next 3 years. It's something you save for, you prepare for, right? And so you want to make sure that you are saving for both short-term and long-term goals that you have, or expenses or expenditures that you have. And so next I want to talk about the type of savings accounts because before I studied and learned about finance, I thought that the only savings account that you have was like a regular one at a bank. But you could have a basic savings account in a bank. And a basic savings account gets you like less than 1% return on your investment. So The money is sitting there, but you're not making any money off of it. But there are other savings accounts where you can make some money off of it. You have high yield savings account, money market account, and you have CDs that you can invest in, which are certificates of deposits. And when you invest in those, one of those three things, then the interest rate is a lot higher. You could get up to like 5% return on your investment when you invest through those avenues. Most of them have a time constraint, meaning you have to leave your money in there for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. But if you have a good sum of money that you want to save, and you're not going to touch for a while, then you could look at different saving options that gives you a better return on your investment than just a traditional savings account. Then let's look at saving for retirement. You want to make sure that you are saving enough money for your retirement. Back in the day, if someone was with a good company, they would get a pension. A pension would say, oh, you work here for 30 years, we'll give you money for the rest of your life when you retire. And so looking at it later, what companies did was they stopped giving pensions, and they started invested in things like 401k plans. That means that they put a portion of money for you in a retirement account, and you put some money into your retirement account, and hopefully you'll get enough money so that when you retire, that you'll be able to take care of all of the needs that you have. And so it's important that you're making sure that you're checking on your retirement plan, you're talking to retirement specialists, and make sure that you're on track to have as much money as you would want for your retirement. Most people in 401k plans and things like that should be saving between 10 and 20% of their gross income towards their retirement, so that they can make sure that they have all the money that they need when they retire. So you want to make sure you know just a plan for how you're going to fund your retirement, whether you have a 401k, a 403b, whether you're using an IRA, your Social Security pension plan, your savings and investments, annuities, what real estate are you going to use in retirement, what part-time or freelance work are you going to do when you retire, or what passive income streams have you set up. So there are some barriers to saving, some reasons why people say they can't save. Whether they have low income is number one, high debt is number two, lack of financial discipline is number three, inadequate financial knowledge is number four, lifestyle inflation is number five, procrastination is a huge one at number six, where people feel like, I'm going to get a raise or promotion or have money later, so I want to take all the income that I can now and spend it, and in the future I'll worry about my retirement. It's the YOLO mentality, that you only live once. But you want to make sure that you are saving adequately, because saving will help to transform and change your future. It'll help you to be able to reach your financial vision. So the end of chapter kind of put it into practice activity is determine the amount you need to save to fully fund your emergency fund, which should cover 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. Then set SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound, to help you to fully fund your emergency savings. Then number two, revise your budget to make sure that you can reach immediate, short-term, and long-term SMART goals. So revise your budget, make sure you're saving enough. Revise your budget from the previous chapter. And then number three is to list your three potential sources for retirement income. How do you plan to fund your retirement? So you can list all of those out, and then that will be able to help you. Next, let's jump into chapter number 4, which is all about investing. Luke chapter 19, verse 23 says, "Why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I would have gotten interest on it." And that comes from the parable of the talents that were given, talents being a measure of money. And some people were able to make their money grow, and they were given more money. And the person who didn't make their money grow, that money was taken from them. And so this chapter is all about investing and helping to make your money grow. Now, there's a difference between investing and gambling. I remember there was one time when I thought I understood the stock market and I wanted to do day trading, and I started making a ton of money, and I'm like, Eureka, we about to be rich real quick, right? And then I quickly lost a good amount of money, and I said, ooh, I'm not doing this day trading anymore, right? So when it comes to investing, going to the casino is not investing. Picking stocks and putting money in stocks because, oh, I like this phone, or I like this watch, or I tried this product and I liked it, so I'm invested it. I'm investing that stock. That's not good investing practices, right? And so in this chapter, it really focuses on investing, the importance of investing, and the power of investing. So looking at it, I give an example. If someone is 20 years old and they invest $1,000 into the S&P 500, which is an index fund, which is the most famous popular fund to invest in, then after 50 years, right? So they put it in at 50, at 20. When they're 70 years old, that $1,000 would have turned into $117,391, assuming a 10% return on investment in S&P 500, meaning that $1,000 turned into $100,000. Now imagine if they would have put $10,000 in, right? It would have turned into a lot more money, or if they would have been investing over time. Now, people that hear this will say, yeah, but I don't want to invest for 50 years. But it just showed you the power of compound interest and money invested over time, where $1,000 or whatever you invest within 50 years, if you had a 10% annual rate of return, you would get 100 times, more than 100 times return on your investing. And so there are many myths about investing. Some people say, oh, it's too risky. Oh, it's gambling. Oh, but don't listen to any of that. All of your pensions, all of your 401ks, all of that is invested in the market in some type of way, your 403Bs. And so we just have to learn more about investing so that we can do it responsibly. Let me take a sip of water. And so when it comes to investing, what you have to do is understand risk tolerance. And what is your risk tolerance? There is low risk investing. Low risk is going to get you between like 2 and 5% return on investment, meaning you're pretty much really not going to lose money, but your money is not going to grow super far above the rate of inflation. People want to do low risk investing when they are retired and they want to make sure that their money is secure, or they worked all their lives and they're about to retire and now they're not trying to build wealth, they're just trying to sustain the wealth that they already have. So you can invest in government bonds, corporate bonds, certificate of deposits, which are CDs, money market funds, high yield savings accounts, fixed annuities. Those are some examples of low risk investments. So people, if you have a good amount of money, you don't need to grow it, you want to protect it. There are many low risk investment opportunities that'll give you between 2 and 5% return on investment. Now, next are moderately risky investments. Moderately risky investments are where the bulk of our investments are in. The reason they're moderately risky is because they are diversified, meaning that they are spread out through different sectors, meaning that they're in so many different funds that all of America would have to fail for you to lose all of your money. And so way people invest in moderately risky investments is through ETFs like index funds. Index funds can be a group of like 500 companies or a certain amount of companies from specific sectors, and you just invest in that, meaning that your portfolio is diversified, and you shouldn't lose all of your money as long as America does not crash and burn. Your money should be good. And so make sure you get a good index funds, or they have balanced mutual funds, or mutual funds where they're mixed up with stocks and bonds, and they're similar, where they're supposed to get you about a 10% return on investment each and every year. So moderately risky investments should give you between like 8 and 12% each and every year. That's index funds, that's mutual funds, and that's dividend paying stocks. A lot of dividend paying stocks are moderately risky. Real estate, we'll talk about this more. We'll talk about real estate, but there are some stocks that or portfolios that you can invest in that have diversified real estate portfolios to mitigate your risk. You could do corporate bonds, or you could do target date funds, funds that target the date, whatever date you want to retire. So those funds are moderately risky. I would encourage your 401k, your 403b, your money that you want to grow over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You want them in mutual funds, index funds, and moderately risky investments where you're not really going to lose all of your money like you can in single stock, but your money is going to grow at a moderate pace. It's not going to skyrocket. You have to give it time to be able to mature. And then it goes deep into the S&P 500. What you should really do is research the S&P 500. If you want to understand investing in index funds or investing, then you should really do some research on the S&P 500. And I have some videos on my channel about the S&P 500, but a quick Google search will give you information, or if you purchase the book, you'll have more information about the S&P 500. And then you have high risk investments, which are like individual stocks, cryptocurrencies, venture capital funds. You have leverage ETFs. Leverage meaning it can go up and down really fast. You can make a lot of money, you can lose a lot of money, and so high risk investments, individual stocks. A lot of people think that they could pick out the next Amazon or the next Tesla that's going to shoot through the roof, but most people will lose money in that way. It's a small chance you could make a lot of money that way, but there's a big chance you can lose a lot of money. So you want to take a step back from high risk investments, and you never want to invest more than like 10% of your overall wealth in high risk investments. That way, if you do lose it all, you still have the other 90% to live on. With real estate can be a low risk investment or a high risk investment or moderately risk investment. It depends on a number of factors, the main one being how much money did you borrow. The more leveraged you are, the more money you borrow, the riskier it is. The less money you borrow, the less risk there is. Meaning, if there's a home for $300,000, you pay $300,000 cash and you rent it out, that's very little risk to what will go wrong with your property. On the flip side, if you have a $300,000 house and you take out a $300,000 loan, then that make it just a lot more risky because you're dealing with debt and you can easily lose the property. So you have to think about market conditions, the type of property, the location of property, how much leverage, how much is management going to cost, how you're going to manage it. And what are the regulations at the place or the facility that you're going to rent out. And then what we look at is investing for retirement. So when you think about investing for retirement, a common rule of thumb is that when you retire, you should retire at 70 to 80% of the income that you were making on your job. Meaning, if you were making $100,000 a year, you want to have at least 70 to 80,000 a year coming back to you each and every year when you retire. You won't need as much money when you retire because usually your kids are out of the house or your car's paid off, your home is paid off, and you have less expenses than you would before you retire. Another rule of thumb is to pull out 4% of your income. It's the 4% rule where each year, if you pull out 4% of your retirement, then you can sustain your retirement for a long period of time and you won't run out of money. So if someone wanted to retire with the salary of $100,000 a year, then they would need $2.5 million in retirement so they could pull out $100,000, which is 4% of $2.5 million. So that gives you some type of marker. You know, if you wanted 50,000 a year, you might need $1.25 million, $1,250,000 in your retirement could give you $50,000 a year if you're going by that 4% rule. So you need to check your retirement accounts and see how much money you'll have coming into retirement, and it depends on how much you have in Social Security, what is your pension plans that you have, what is other income streams that you have, a lot of factors, but you really want to make sure that you're adequately funding your retirement so that when it's time to retire, you actually can retire and go and do what you want to do. So the end of chapter question here for chapter 4 is reflect on your personal finance goals and consider the reasons you want to invest. List 3 specific objectives you hope to achieve through investing. For example, buying a home or retiring or a college fund, but pretty much pick the 3 reasons or 3 goals that you have, and why you want to invest. You get your why, and that will help you to be able to be motivated to get it done. Question number 2, or put it into practice number 2, based on your financial goals and risk tolerance, identify the types of investments you are considering or planning to invest in. Explain why you have chosen these investments, how they align with your objectives. So with this is saying, what's your risk tolerance and what are you investing in? And if you are automatically being invested in a 401k, or you already have a job or some retirement plan, go get that information. A lot of people wait till they about to retire to find out how much they have in retirement, how the retirement works. Go to your job today, tomorrow, and go figure out what's your retirement plan. How much do you have in retirement? How much are they giving you? What's going on with retirement, right? And then lastly is, what annual income do you want in your retirement? And if you're just solely basing your income based on like a 401k or something that you have, then what you want to do is see how much you want a year in retirement, multiply that by 25. If you want $100,000 a year when you retire, times it by 25, and that'll get you $2.5 million. So whatever annual salary you want, you times it by 25, so you could see essentially how much money you would need to save in order for you to reach your goal. Now let's dive into the chapter on giving. Matthew 6:21 says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So this asks you, what do you treasure? What is most important to you? Is it the house? Is it the car? Or is it to be able to impact and change people? Where is your heart? And so this chapter on giving is my favorite chapter in the whole book. I believe that it is profound, it's transformational, and I believe there are not many books that teach on giving with this level of accuracy. So I'm proud of this chapter, excited about this chapter, and know that this brings a lot to the table. So starting off with giving, understanding that God is our source, right? Everything that we have as a believer, if you believe in God, everything that we have comes from God. He's the source. So anything that we're giving, we're just giving to someone out of a portion of what God has given to us. And so the next question is to look at where to give. So you can give anywhere. Like I said, you could give to family members, you could give to friends, you could give to different organizations. For me personally, as a believer, one of the best places I like to give is to the church. And for believers, I would encourage them to give to the church. Why? Because the church, unlike other organizations, can help to offer eternal salvation. It helps change people's eternity, right? And the Bible talks about giving and how important it is to give. And even the believers in the first century in the book of Acts, when they were giving, we see that they gave to the church. In the Gospels, Jesus would say, yeah, the poor you always have, but he encouraged people to give to the poor, and they gave to the poor, and we should give to the poor and other organizations, and that's good. But when it came to once the church was started in the book of Acts, we see people laying things at the apostles' feet and giving very generously. So I believe we should give to the church generously, not meaning we shouldn't give anywhere else. We should give other places as well and to other people as well. We should just be generous in general, but our priority should be to give to the church, give to the kingdom of God, give to where eternal transformation takes place and happens. And then people look at, well, how much should I give? I'm glad that you asked that question. The Bible talks a lot about giving, and so looking at it in the Old Testament, what the people did was they did a tithe. And actually, there were different tithes that people gave. There was the Levitical tithe. It talks about that in Numbers 18:21 through 24, where they gave 10% of their income to support the Levites, who were the priestly tribe who took care of the temple. There was also a festival tithe, which was known as the feast tithe or tithe of rejoicing. And what the Israelites would do would put 10% of their income to the side, or 10% of their resources to the side for those festivals. And then they also had the poor tithe, which was a tithe that was collected every 3 years, that the Israelites would go and they were called to give that to the poor. In addition to that, they had the first fruits offering, where when they had first fruits from the harvest, they would go and offer that to the Lord. And then they had free will offerings as well. And from the free will offerings, they would go and give that. So you had two different tithes, or three different tithes. Two of them were yearly. One of them was every 3 years. And then after that, you had 2 or 3 different free will offerings. So the tithes alone, if you put them together, they gave, 23.3 and some change percent of their income through the tithe. In addition to that, what they did, they gave free will offerings in addition to the 23% tithe. And so, drawing inspiration from the Old Testament, then when a lot of people preach and teach on tithing, what they do is they recommend and encourage people tithe 10% of their income, which is what we do. Recommend that 10% is that starting place that we get from the Old Testament. Now, a lot of people are wise and they say, well, the Old Testament, is done away with and we're New Testament. What does the New Testament teach about giving? And the New Testament teaches more about offerings, right? But if you go by that perspective, it's always beyond the 10% marker. For example, we have the widow's offering in the book of Mark 12 or Luke 21, and she gave all that she had, and Jesus praised her. Or you have the rich young ruler who walked away sad because he did not want to sell all his possessions. Or you have Zacchaeus, who decided to give half of his possessions to the poor and repay all his debts. Or you have Jesus addressing the Pharisees, where he's talking about, yeah, you tithe, but you neglected justice, meaning like you need to go even beyond the tithe and take care of the poor. Then in the book of Acts, where the church was started, what you see is all shared their possessions. In Acts chapter 2, the end of Acts 2 and the end of Acts 4, we see people selling all their possessions, and they're selling homes and they're laying them at the apostles' feet. And you see Ananias and Sapphira, how they lied about how much they were given, and then they pretty much were struck down. Or you see the collection for the Jerusalem church, where people were given and given even beyond their ability. You see the Apostle Paul was supported And you see the Philippian church, how they sent their gifts to Jerusalem and to the Apostle Paul. So throughout the Gospels and the New Testament, when it talks about giving, it really has a generosity that goes even beyond that 10% marker. So, my encouragement for everyone is to go and to start at that 10% area. If you aren't there yet, start at 5%, but get to that 10% of giving of your income. And then as God blesses you, you can go and you could be even more generous and give even more. And for people who aren't Christians, I encourage you to still give 10% of your income just to whatever organization you think makes humanity better, because I believe that this principle is powerful about being generous, making a difference, and giving to organizations that bring about change. And so, also, when you look at giving, the Bible talks a lot more about giving, but people will ask, should I give from my gross income or my net income? Now, most people don't give 10% either way, right? So whether it's gross or net, give 10%. Me personally and my family, we give 10% out of the gross because it's out of all that God has given us. Before the taxes are taken out and the deductions and retirement, we want to make sure that God gets his first. But whether you give gross or net, just go and be a generous giver. And that's what Jesus talked about. It's really not about, oh, I need to give 10% on the dot, not less, not more. You really want to focus on just having a generous heart and being a cheerful giver, because God, the Bible talks about how God loves a cheerful giver. So you should definitely go and give cheerfully. Some people say they can't afford to give. The way the Bible talks about sowing and reaping, that you reap what you sow, what I could say is you can't afford not to give, right? If you can't afford to give, that means you can't afford not to give. Because if if you're sowing a little, you're gonna reap a little. But if you sow generously, you're going to reap generously. And so you should definitely give. Some people have skepticism of giving because they feel like resources are mismanaged. And what I could say is, you're not given to people, you're given to God. But what happens is the people use those resources. You should definitely do your research and not give to any shady church or organization, but you should place yourself a part of a good church that's doing good things and that's using resources responsibly, and you should give there generously. But you shouldn't use others' misfailings as a reason that you don't do and go out and do what God called us to do with our resources. And then it say making giving a priority. Oftentimes, giving is an afterthought for people. And we don't want giving to be an afterthought, but we want giving to really be a priority, to where we're putting God first in our life. So this book has a lot more on giving. I have a lot more verses that I wasn't able to go over from Corinth, from Paul's collection for the Jerusalem church, for the support of the gospel, for caring for the widows and the needy and the orphans. So there's a lot more in there, but for sake of time, I'm just gonna say, prioritize giving. God is good. Everything we have come from God. So give a portion back to him. If you attend a church, shoot for that 10% marker. If you don't attend a church, then shoot to give back a generous portion of all the income that you receive. Now, the put it into practice for this chapter says, consider various examples of giving in the Old and New Testament. What do these examples teach you about giving, right? So read scripture about giving. What do they teach you, Old and New? Question two, or put it into practice two. What are some barriers or obstacles that have prevented you from giving more generously? So, what are some barriers or obstacles presented that prevented you from giving more generously? Number three, how does prioritizing giving to God affect your financial vision and budget? So we created a financial vision and budget, and now this is a time that we can go back to them and say, have we prioritized giving to God? And then lastly, align your financial vision and budget to reflect your beliefs about prioritizing giving and giving generously. So you can go ahead and look at it, pray about it, and you can make those adjustments. And then looking at chapter number 6 is money traps. Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth from get rich quick schemes quickly disappear. Wealth from hard work grows over time. Meaning, don't get caught up in get rich quick schemes, but wealth from hard work, it grows over time. So your wealth can accumulate. That doesn't mean it's going to take you 50 years to accumulate wealth, but it means don't be so quick or so much in a rush to get wealthy that you fall into get rich quick schemes and end up losing what you have. And so the money traps that we have in this chapter, the first one is you trap yourself by living beyond your means, right? um, just not living under your means. You're buying things that the home is bigger than you can afford. The car is more expensive than you can afford. The vacation, the clothes, the luxury items. Live below your mean. Contentment is important and contentment is key. Another money trap is credit cards. I know you get reward points and you get money back and you love your credit card, but they don't give you those because they love you and want to see you do well. They do those because they know most people live paycheck to paycheck. They do not have an emergency fund. And when you fall into a crisis and something breaks down and you use that card and can't pay it off, they're going to charge you 18 to 20%, and you're going to give them 100 times more money than they gave you through rewards. So just know that credit cards use predatory practices, and so you should not be using one if you do not have an emergency fund and if you are not responsible. Payday advances that used to be just in the hood, right? In poor neighborhoods, it would be all type of payday advances. But now you're starting to find online things that people could go to. I've been seeing advertisements for them where they're saying you could get your paycheck early. Be aware of those, be careful of those, because their hope is that you can't pay them back in the time that you're supposed to, and then they charge you crazy interest rates, and that's a weight that's hard to get out of. Another thing is high cost investment products. A lot of people will say, invest with my company, and we're going to get you extreme results, right? Especially when it comes to stocks. 80% of people that manage stocks don't outperform a S&P 500 index fund, which is extremely cheap. It costs you barely anything to invest in, but instead people will try to take 1, 2, 3% of your portfolio, charge you all type of fees for their investment products. The key here is whenever there's an investment product, find out all the fees that are associated with it, because that's where they make all their money, is charging you a lot of fees and by charging their rates. So find out what people are charging Be wary of life insurance, investment options like whole life, because a lot of times their fees are super high, and when you try to get out of it, you can't get out of it. And if you would have just invested that money yourself into a mutual fund or index fund, you would have avoided all the fees and you would have made way more money. And people come and they sell them each and every day, and tell you how you could get rich and make a lot of money, but it costs you a lot of money. I have more videos about that on my page as well, and you could read the book more about that, and you could just learn more about those predatory practices. But when they tell you this is a great investment option, it's not the truth. Speculative investments just means things that you think are going to go up in the future, but you really haven't had the deep research and knowledge about. Like I said, just because you like a product doesn't mean you know enough to invest in an individual company. So invest in a field that you're an expert in and that you know a lot about. Otherwise, people will just take your money. Gambling and playing a lottery, you're just gonna lose. Buy now, pay later. If you could afford it now, just pay it now, right? They want you to get furniture, buy now, pay later, clothes, buy now, pay later, and that's when you get in over your head in debt. Just pay the price right now. Student loans, see what your degree is in. Don't take out $200,000 for a communications degree that average $40,000, $36,000 a year, for the average person coming out of college going into that degree. Make sure that you understand what field you're going into, see how much entry level positions are paying for that field, and make sure that the amount of loans you're taking for that field makes sense, so that you're not just being overburdened by student loans. Another thing is misunderstanding taxes. Most people could save thousands of dollars a year if they just had the right tax professional. You want to make sure you have your estate planning in case of emergencies. They do happen. You want to make sure your money doesn't go to the government if you pass away, or if something happened to your spouse. You want to make sure that you have some term life insurance if you don't have a ton of money just stacked away, to make sure that your family is taken care of. Be aware of financial advisors, planners, and coaches. They can be good, just don't give them a percentage of your wealth. Just pay them hourly, and that will work best for you. And just don't be financially ignorant. And so those are the things that I want to share with you about Make Money Make Sense, what everyone should know about personal finance. If you watch this whole video, then this started you on your journey for financial literacy, and there is so much more I want to share with you. This is just the beginning, but I'm grateful for you watching. Make sure you like this video, that you share it, that you subscribe. If you comment, I guarantee that I will comment back on this video and share with you, and I have a lot more to come. Thank you for watching. Love you. Have a great day.